Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the all-new 2023 Chevy Colorado ZR2. Before we get into today's video though, I do want to mention if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into the facts and figures now. Let's talk about this Colorado ZR2, which I'm extremely excited for. So first off, it's going to be a 2023 model year truck, and it's going to get all of the same redesigned stuff that the regular Colorado is going to get for the 2023 model year. So new front fascia, new hood, new headlights, new taillights, right? They're redoing the whole truck. Think about what they did with the Silverado for the 2019 model year. Basically, they're going to do the same thing with the Colorado to bring it into the modern era, and apparently it's going to look kind of like a baby Silverado with some, unique Colorado design touches. But again, it's kind of going to look like a baby Silverado, which I don't think is a bad route to go because it's a really good looking truck. Now, aside from that, several places have actually seen the ZR2 being tested alongside the Ford Ranger Raptor. And not the new Ranger Raptor that was just announced, but the previous generation Ranger Raptor, which will still bring up the ZR2 from a performance perspective. So again, GM is benchmarking a crazy off-road truck for the new ZR2. And that's why they're adding quite a bit to this truck. So first off, it's going to have 33-inch tires, which is awesome. Right now, the ZR2 has 31-inch tires, which aren't bad, but 33s are even better. On top of having 33-inch tires, it's still going to have the DSSV shocks from Multimatic, just like the current ZR2. They're probably going to be tuned a little bit different to be able to handle a little bit more off-road terrain, similar to the changes that they made to the Silverado ZR2, where they kind of beefed up the shocks a little bit. They're going to do the same thing with the Colorado ZR2. Now, on top of that, it looks like the truck has been lifted a little bit compared to the previous generation ZR2s. They're probably making some tweaks to the suspension. Talking about suspension, it looks like they're still probably going to use leaf springs. With the new Silverado, they're still using leaf springs, and so I don't think they're going to get rid of leaf springs out of the Colorado. I think it would be awesome if they went to coil suspension. That would make sense, especially for an off-road truck like this. You guys know that coil suspension makes you have a much more planted rear end, and that is very important when it comes to off-roading. Now, aside from that, we're finally going to get a high-performance powertrain with the Colorado, which is what everyone has wanted. They're going to put the 2.7 4-cylinder in the Colorado, which might not sound like a lot. But again, in the Silverado, it produces 310 horsepower and then over 400 pound-feet of torque. It's like 430 pound-feet of torque. And again, in a full-size truck, that doesn't sound like a lot. But think about that in a mid-size truck. The current Ford Ranger, for example, has 270 horsepower and then 310 pound-feet of torque. Sorry if I'm off on the figures by a little bit, but the point that I'm trying to make is this is going to have more horsepower than most mid-sized trucks, and it's going to have way more torque than most mid-sized trucks. I just want to finish up with the exterior changes to the ZR2 Colorado, and then we're going to pop to the interior of the truck and talk about the changes there. So with the exterior changes of the truck, besides the stylistic changes that are coming with the redesign on the truck and the bigger tires and the upgraded suspension and shocks and all that, we're still going to get a pretty aggressive front bumper, but it looks like they're making it even more aggressive for the new ZR2. Again, it seems like they're really trying to just stick it to Ford to make this truck as capable as they can from an off-road perspective. And so yeah, it sounds like this truck is going to look a lot more modern on the outside. It's going to have more off-road capability, and it's just going to look really cool. And then all the same tech that the ZR2 has from a crawling perspective is still going to apply to the new ZR2. So we're still going to have front and rear lockers, and you're actually going to have the new one-pedal drive system, it sounds like, that is in the new Silverado ZR2. And this is the cool thing about us having a Silverado ZR2 is we're going to have a lot of tech kind of trickle down into the Colorado ZR2. And same thing with the interior. So if you guys have seen the interior on the new Silverado ZR2, that's basically going to be kind of carried over into the Colorado ZR2, but then miniaturized, essentially. So we're going to have the easy, clean seats. We might have some neon stitching in the interior as well, but cat always gets in the way. We're also going to have a larger infotainment system and then full digital dash, just like the Silverado ZR2. Now, similar to the Silverado, they're probably going to make, kind of like an analog dash for the lower down packages on the Colorado, and then you're going to have to get a higher end package on the Colorado like the ZR2 to get the bigger infotainment system and the full digital gauge cluster. On top of that, there might be some other tech features added to it, like a 360 camera system, which I think would be just absolutely absolutely fantastic. At least a front camera, right? At least a front camera would be nice from an off-road perspective, but we might get Chevy's cool 360 camera system that they have like in the Silverado ZR2, where it shows us shots of the wheels and just like all around the truck and just makes off-roading so easy. And then also that one pedal drive system that the new Silverado ZR2 has, like I mentioned earlier. And so yeah, just quite a bit of tech to bring the Colorado to the modern era. Now you guys probably noticed that I only mentioned the 2.7 4-cylinder as the powertrain. There is a chance that Chevy is going to axe the old powertrains out of the truck. Now, I'm not sure if that's like 100% going to happen, but it is a potential. There's two different routes they could go. They could just get rid of everything and then just 2.7 across the board. But I think what will most realistically happen is they're going to have the 2.7 for like the higher end packages, including the ZR2 and the Colorado. And then they're still probably going to keep the 3.6 V6 because that's still a very strong powertrain for the mid-size truck segment. For the lower down packages, the diesel, we'll see what happens with the diesel. And then from a transmission perspective, apparently they're going to pair the 10-speed to that turbocharged 2.7 liter 4-cylinder finally. But if they keep the 3.6 V6 and the diesel, we'll still have the 8-speed automatic with the 3.6 and still have the 6-speed with the diesel. And I hope they keep the diesel. I think that they will because they've kept the Duramax diesel in their full-size truck so far, and so I don't see a point in them getting rid of it from the Colorado, because a lot of people like that engine. They like to have the diesel engine, even though it doesn't have a very large amount of horsepower. It's very, very lacking in horsepower. People still seem to absolutely love that powertrain. And so now let's kind of get into summing things up with the video, my thoughts on this new Colorado ZR2 and whether or not you should look into purchasing this truck. So first off, I'm really excited for this truck. I'm glad that Chevy is finally redesigning the Colorado in general. Like it's needed a redesign for such a long time. It seems like mid-sized trucks just go for the longest amount of time without getting redesigns, and it's probably because people purchase full-size trucks more than mid-size trucks. So, you know, manufacturers like Chevy just don't want to put as much money into the mid-size trucks. But besides my excitement about the fact that it's being redesigned, I think that having the bigger tires, having the upgraded suspension and shocks is a good thing. Hopefully they do coil suspension. I doubt it though. I think we're still going to have leaf springs. So you're still going to have that kind of what do you call it, like the washboardy feel when you go at higher speeds, where the back end just kind of hops all over the place, which will be a slight downside, especially compared to the Ranger Raptor, because the Ranger Raptor is going to use coil suspension in the back end for the new generation, which will just make it crazy off-road. Now, another downside about the Colorado ZR2 is it's actually down in power compared to the new Ranger Raptor, at least, because the new Ranger Raptor is going to have the 3.0 V6 rather. I always get the 2.7 and 3.0 mixed up when I'm making these videos, which makes me look stupid. But anyways, it's going to have the 3.0 V6, which is going to have 400 horsepower and over 400 pound-feet of torque in the Ranger Raptor, which is going to make that truck just absolutely insane from an acceleration perspective. Again, 400 horsepower in a freaking mid-sized truck. That is just unheard of. It's crazy. And so I do see a slight downside with the 2.7 4-cylinder because it has 2 less cylinders than what the Ranger is going to have, and it's got quite a bit less horsepower. Torque will probably be similar with the powertrains. But again, horsepower kind of wins for people that drive these trucks because they care about the on-road driving more than the off-road, it seems like. But aside from that, I think overall the changes are in a very positive direction. I think this is going to be just even more capable than the current ZR2, which is extremely capable off-road. It's not the best truck on-road, right? Because, you know, it just doesn't have the most amount of power for how big the tires are. The 4-cylinder turbo will fix that to an extent, but we're getting bigger tires with, you know, a slightly bigger engine, but still bigger tires. So, we'll see what happens from an acceleration perspective, but it sounds like they're going to make the truck more comfortable on-road. It's going to be more capable off-road, so I think it's a win overall. And my guess is that it's going to be easier to get a Colorado ZR2 compared to the Ford Ranger Raptor. And I'm also guessing that it's going to be less expensive than the Ranger Raptor, because with the Ranger Raptor, they're putting in a bunch of new components to make this truck happen. Whereas with this Colorado ZR2, it's going to have, you know, some carryover with quite a few items, and it's borrowing stuff from other vehicles in the lineup. And so I don't think that and that's just my guess, I don't think the engineering cost is going to be as much with this new Colorado ZR2. And so I'm thinking that the price is going to be a little bit lower. My guess for the new Ranger Raptor, I think it's going to be like a $60,000 plus truck. Whereas with this Colorado ZR2, I think it's going to be like a $50,000 truck. So I think it's going to be like $10,000 less than the Ranger Raptor. But let me know if you guys are looking into potentially getting one if you already own a ZR2 and you're thinking about upgrading. Again, overall, I'm excited. I think these changes are in a positive direction, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say, and I'll see you.